Well, as I finish up today, a little bittersweet our training miles this morning. Some horses where I was thoroughly impressed with. We'll talk about all of them in just a minute, but some of our mainstays were a little disappointing. You don't want to see Pickpocket make a break, who never does. Memory and Imagination looked at a gear. I just watched all the videos again just to refresh my mind. I talked to all the riders, but I wanted to go and look at the videos myself. Mel Gibbswan did not look good. These are some of our best horses of the top crew that we're watching. Arson looked fantastic. Mounds for All, I did it again. He looked great too, but Tactical Mounds looked good also. She was angry. We had a shorter snake cord, and Megan had saw it right away and said, she looked angry today. She was a little angry. She was a little grabby on Jason, and we did put a shorter cord on her because Amy was going with her today, and the last thing I want to do is see Tactical Mounds, the 151 trotter, show up, or 152 trotter show up and get a little aggressive, a little competitive today. So we did have a shorter snake cord on her, and you could clearly see that she was none too happy about it. But did her work, still got the job done. I do want to talk about, it's hard to talk about them in groups, right? So I'm just going to go set by set. Tell you what I saw, tell you what I know, tell you what I think. Memory and Imagination, he wears a little bit more weight, and he wears the hobbles. I know he's a very weird horse. Eric's a great horseman, and all last year when he had him, he kept saying, "Yeesh, can we get some of this weight off him? Get some of this weight off him." He gets up into his elbows, and you would think of nothing else, math alone. If you put more weight on his feet, he would draw up into his elbows. Why don't we just take some of that weight off? Because he can get a little pacey. Now, you can get him tight. Now, a lot of these horses, we are going to Baycox, and we do, quite frankly, see a difference when they are treated up aggressively for EPM, some of them. Now, that's not, I don't want anybody reading too much into that. I don't want to continue to go down this path, but EPM is a pace to Totazerol. The pace we use here is Lake Equine's generic blend of Totazerol and Diclozerol. Totazerol, yeah. You can use Marquis. I don't even know if they make Marquis anymore. Yeah, they do. I'm sure they do. Baycox is a brand name, so we actually use a compounded compounded paste here from Dr. Latessa's Lake Equine, and we haven't had many of them on it, right? We're not just going to go give it to all the horses just because. It just makes no sense. But after watching the replays today, I think adding the weight back onto Memory and Imagination, putting his hobbles back on, knowing that may draw him to his elbows, and maybe putting his elbow boots back on, I think you're going to see a much different Memory and Imagination. Pickpocket, track was firm. When we went out, I was a little surprised. I knew it was going to be a nice day, but it still was quite chilly in the morning, and the track was hard as a rock. We'd asked them to cut it, and they went out after the second set, but the damage was already done. And quite frankly, it's very telling. I don't mind that it was firm because it was very telling to me. Pickpocket came out, and he was sharp. When I moved him to the front, he was grabby, but as we get further into the mile, he did get a little peggy. He did get to feel like he was on eggshells, and we lost him. Now, again, as I said to Kathy, I'm not worried about that. We will Baycox him. We're going to paint him up real good, put a little scurf on his stifles, his hocks, his knees, work on his feet. Kathy's always working on his feet anyway. And put the hobbles back on him also. Horse was great otherwise. The mechanics, you guys get to see the rehearsals for the play, and then you get to see the play, right? And not many people get to do that unless you're an owner that just goes to the barn every week, no matter what, to watch your horse train. Then you don't get to see the bad training trips and the good training trips. There wasn't one horse that trained today that I didn't make a note of that is easily fixed. I had a wonderful client, a partner of mine, Alan, messaged me about Mel Gibbswan and said, well, the last 3 times I watched him go, he run. His last 2 starts in Indiana and today. I said, well, I can assure you this is the first break he's made in 2023 that I saw. And I know I trained him 2 weeks ago. He's fantastic. What I saw was Mel Gibbswan. One, his feet were bothering him a little bit. He was shod this week. The track was firm. But that isn't just it. I also saw him coming off the track a little sloppy behind. I would suspect once we get a good dose of TD pace, the pace I was just telling you, into him, you're going to see a much different Mel Gibbswan. And I'm not worried. I know Alan said, it's a long way to think that he can go in the Bunker Hill. Just relax, okay? It's not like Mel Gibbswan turned into this pig at the end of the year and is no good all of a sudden. Mel Gibbswan's still there, don't worry. The horses, when they show up, when they show up the way they do as 2-year-olds. Mel Gibbswan was such a good horse at 2. I think he was a winner in 58, tried at 56, 55. He might have tried 54 once. And yes, he did. run his last 2 starts, but that was because he was at the end of a long year and he had aches and pains. Those are not the same aches and pains that you see now. You may see the same result, the breaks and the turns, not the same aches and pains. Totally different situation, and one that I can guarantee you we can mitigate. I trained him myself 2 weeks ago, and the horse that I trained was the old Mel Gibbs Swan. Today, you probably saw a Mel Gibbs Swan that was a little sore on his feet, was loading weight behind. His stifles were a little weak, a little tender, and he just folded over. We can fix all of those problems. Not worried about them at all. Arson was fantastic. Very, very good. Very polite. Did his work well. Finished up well. And Tactical Mounds, you can see she was angry, but still got it done because she's a winner, right? And that's her in a nutshell. Not having a great day. Probably didn't love the hard track either. Had a short snake cord on. A little pissed off about that. But when push came to shove and it was time to get going, she got going, and that is why she is a good horse. Megan also said we always had issues with her liver count being high, and we've never really drawn it. We have been treating her mildly for liver issues with the normal pills that we give them here, but we never did take account of her liver, and it is getting closer to racing now. We're about 5 weeks away from her first start, so it is time to start pulling her blood. We'll do that tomorrow, but I suspect it's going to be elevated, but not in a crazy amount, and I don't really think it had a whole lot to do today. Again, harder track, a little chilly out today, probably a little sore on the old tootsies this morning, and loading a little bit of weight, a little angry over that snake cord, and just said, you know what, I'll do my work. I'm going to lodge a formal complaint, but I'm going to do my work and do it best I can. And that is her in a nutshell. Second set, Flash Fly. So pleased with her. I've been gone with her this year, and Amy, we'll talk about Amy in a minute, but Amy goes with her all the time. And with an open bridle on by herself, you can't get her to go that much, right? And it's a good learning experience to figure out how to get a horse to go that is just dogging it, right? Just being a little lazy for the day. And, I forgot my passport. I can get it on the way back. And when it comes to that particular filly, I love Flash Fly to death. We forget how well bred she is too, right? Very, very well bred. This is Fashion Woodchopper's sister, and her brother sold for $610,000 as a yearling. She's no slouch. This is a very, very well bred filly, and she was just overshadowed last year. We didn't talk about her much, but don't forget who she is. She went out, did her work well, put a couple little bumps in here and there. She always did that, but you know what I like? When always come up looking for more. She put a step in at the quarter pole and always wanted to jump forward and do more work. And this is the very start of some of the heavy lifting they're going to do over the next few weeks. And today is very important. It's very telling. Track was hard. You can tell which one's feet get a little sore, a little peggy, right? Memory and imagination and Pickpocket. Make a mental note of that. We know, and I know Pickpockets do because he raced great in Kentucky, but when we got him on that hard track in Indiana that was raining that night, wasn't so good. Very, very telling, a track like that. Now, it's not that, although it's not a track we wanted to train on, the takeaway from that is what was good and what was bad. So, Flash Fly was great. I thought Affection did her work well. Again, she's just at the start of working hard. The horse that impressed me the most in there, well, Sweeney looked great, right? Sweeney has looked great. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this guy all year long. The hobbles and everything like that, it's all gone. You're not going to need that this year. He's just going to wear a bridle, I think, and I think he might wear a head pole in the left, but a bridle and a harness. And he's done his work very, very well, all the way training down. Green Tea. I hadn't seen him yet. Eric kept hiding him it's like a golfer. He'd go to about 6 o'clock in the morning when nobody was around and train Green Tea. Just wanted to keep quiet, but when push came to shove in the mile, he was quiet. And Eric's done a great job with him. He looked good. He'll be going to Oak Grove. Should have a lot of fun with this guy the rest of the season. We went out with the third set, and probably one of the most impressive miles of the whole day was Mounds for All. How he did it, how he looked. No, a lot of people were asking me about Mounds for All. This is Tactical Mounds, his younger brother, by Swan for All. No slouch, that's sire. And last year, you could tell he was just really immature mentally. Made some mistakes, made some breaks, but the one race he did trot in 55, come 28, I think, and looked pretty good. I think that's the Mounds for All you're seeing now. He looked fantastic today. Irresistible Sun had to come a half in a minute and a better 1-1. Came from last, and Jason come roaring up alongside me. Couldn't sustain it through the wire, just need to work a little bit. I noticed that Flash Fly's putting on weight. Him and Insider Trading need to put a little more weight on. So I talked to Jason and Lauren especially and said, listen, get them out of the barn early in the morning, breakfast, jog, Give them a big bran mash at 10:30 in the morning. They're both eating great. They're just not because they're sprouting up. They're taller. They got a lot taller. So you have to put more weight on that frame. And to do that, I think especially over the next 3 weeks, between putting muscle on, working them hard, and feeding them a little bit extra, I think they could use it. So this is another thing that we're looking at, is what do the horses need? Where do I see deficiencies, not just in their mechanics, but in their gear, in their shoeing, things of that nature. And what are we going to do about that? So a lot of discussion today with the vet, with Jason, about these horses and how we're going to approach a number of the issues that we saw from today. So it wasn't just about training the horses today. Today was a very telling day as to where the horses are, what type of performance they're ready for right now, and how we get them to where we need them to be. So now we have the baseline. We got all the work, all that foundation work was put into them. Now we have the baseline of them. How do we get to where we need them to be? And those are the discussions we'll be having over the next few days. But I thought Mounds for All was great. Insider Trading was good. Again, same thing as I said, Irresistible Sun and Insider Trading, oddly enough, finished right beside each other. Same thing. They both need to have about 70 pounds put on them over the next month. So we'll add a feeding to them. They'll get fed at 6 o'clock in the morning when they usually do, jog at 7, get a nice, and this is only possible because they are good eaters. Feed them a bran mash at 10:30, and then come back with lunch at 12:30, and then a normal supper. If you can do that, the horses will eat as you're starting to put that speed and power and muscle on them. They'll gain the weight that they need to gain. So that's the plan for those two. Purple People Eater, again, almost to that comfort zone as far as what she can do and how comfortable she be. I knew the track was hard today. I knew she was prone to getting a little pacey. I said a little prayer for Eric as we turned to go a mile, but I knew there was going to be a problem. I'll go with Purple People Eater again on Friday. This is not new for her, and I'm not concerned with anything I saw today. And I guess that's the one takeaway from me to you. For those of you out there saying, oh my God, my horse made a breaker. Oh my God, how is this horse ever going to function this year? Relax. There wasn't one thing that took place today that was very concerning to me. Now, I went out with all gas, no brakes. You guys got to see a little bit of what a tiny, tiny adjustment can mean. I went to go with all gas, no brakes. He ran all over the track going into the first turn. Didn't feel good. All I did, I came in, took the line pole off the outside. Because he was by himself, I put a hood with cups on him. Left the line pole on the left and just put a normal set of bell boots on him. That was it. Went out, trained him out 57 and a piece last half and 58, 57, wrapped up. Very strong. Very, very, very strong today. I was super impressed with all gas, no brakes. Now, Amy went out. Oh, we got to talk about set number 4. Set 4, Lonely Lakewood was scratched with a temperature. I told Kathy, don't worry, Kathy, we'll put Pickpocket, Memory and Imagination, and Lonely Lakewood the bike on Friday. I'll go with them before I go to the Meadows, and we'll get them all back on track. Don't worry about a thing. So, Lonely Lakewood, a little temperature today. He was scratched. I went with Gypsy. A little rickety in the turns. This is just mechanics. Again, another horse, we ran some diclozerol into him. Now, Dr. Latessa opted to go for a more direct route. They ran a diclozerol jug into both Mel Gibbs Swan and Gypsy Hill. Again, I think we're on the right track. Gypsy was plenty strong and looks like $1 million. This is all mechanics with him, and we'll be able to square him away in plenty of time before he ever has to do any work this season. I was happy with the way he does it. He always looks for a way in, a way to get his work done. Yeah, he rickety in the turns. Lots of horses could just roll off. Give it up and roll off. Not Gypsy. Gypsy was looking for a way to get it done the whole way. Finished up strong again. I was happy with him. I'm Fancy Like was a little grabby and behind me. I think Amy moved her over, and then she hung when she cleared to the front. And Amy's like, why'd she do that? I said, because they're still just 3-year-olds. They clear to the front. They're looking around. They're, not really paying attention. They don't have that killer mindset just yet. We don't want them to. This is just freshly March. They have to race through to October. There is no need to have them in high gear and drop the hammer on them this month. We want to have them all ready to go right before they need to be ready to go. And I'm Fancy Like still won the set. When push came to shove, I was trotting hard on the end of it with Gypsy, and she saw me coming and just did enough to keep him at bay and win the set. Very, very good set. My only concern from that set, and I know exactly where it's going. Sedona Hill, again, Baycocks, work on her feet, put bell boots on her, take those boots off her, put bandages on her behind like we had on her before. Murphy Blind and head pull on the inside, gating pull on the inside. I'll put her in the bike and go a mile in 2:8, 2:10. No problem whatsoever on Friday. But again, another horse. A lot of tells in that training mile from her. We just have to put a little little spit polish on her throughout the week and get her ready to go for Friday. And Born to Dance was good. A little warm, a little strong in the face as he always is, but he did his work well. Now, Amy went out brace for landing. I said 2-6 off a half and 4. Instead, she went 2-2 off a half and 4. Last half and 58 for brace. We scoped him after, no blood. Very strong, eating his lunch and feeling good afterwards. Very happy to see that. This horse looked good. That is a hell of a mile in a jog cart on a cool, chilly little morning. Yeah, that's a hell of a mile on a half-mile track. I would say you could qualify him in 56, 57 now, no problem at all. Not going to. We're going to back up another for a little bit for the week. Go an easy mile in 25 on Friday or Saturday with him, and then come back in the race bike, go a mile in 2.5. Just keep him wrapped up, and then we'll qualify him the week after, and he'll be ready to go. Very happy with him today, and obviously a super impressive mile from Greatest Ending. You know, I said Amy missed the mark. I missed the mark. Huge. But Jason had saw this. He said, Anthony, you can't go in 2:10 with this horse. I said, what do you mean? He said, that's too fast in the jog cart. He's going to hit the jog cart. He's too big. He said, you can get a mile in about 12 to 15, but if you step on the gas at all, he starts hitting the jog cart. He's just too goddamn big. He said, you're going to have to go in his race bike. I said, well, Jason, I put him in the race bike. He's going racehorse speed. He said, you're not going to have to worry about this guy. He was right. I get over the half in a minute and 2/5 and went a mile in 55 and 4 with him. And you saw the same mile I did. Never asked him to go any at all. Never spoke to him. Never brushed him with the whip. Never roared at him. Nothing. That was all him out for a little stroll in the park. And that is the horse that we bought. Now, a little surprised he's so sure-footed with no hobbles on. That horse today had a closed bridle, a hood over his ears, and a harness. That is it. Nothing more. Horse looked amazing. It's been a chore, and I know that Lauren, Jason, Sarah, when she was here, been working hard to get this guy good and keep him good. He was good today. Really good. Now, we had some vet work done to him after, so he can't race for 10 days. So if his class goes next Friday, he'll be fine. Otherwise, he may have to wait another week. The great thing about Pennsylvania right now, and he is going to the Meadows, the great thing about Pennsylvania right now is their qualifying dates are 90 days, I think. Because of the Poconos being off, they just moved them to 90 days, which I'm a huge proponent of anyway. The qualifying dates, you guys know how I feel about that. They're dumb, right? If I qualify my horse and then wait 2 weeks, he went a mile in 59, James gets on him and runs him into a blind switch. Is that a line you're really going to be able to tell or bet the horse on? Or you're just going to have to know that our stable, our horses are generally ready to go when they get dropped in the box. And I don't care if you see a qualifier in 6 days, 6 weeks, or 6 months, they're ready to go. And that's the way I see it. Now, obviously, there's probably lots of gamblers out there that disagree, but I just think the qualifying lines they're unnecessary. Qualify them at 2, and then you're good to go. You tell me when your horse is ready to go. I'm not going to train a horse in 2:10 and then bring him to the races thinking he has to trot or pace in 55. That's insanity. So anyway, doesn't matter to me. I'm happy that the Meadows is 90 days, so he won't have to qualify. When we tell you he's ready to rock, well, he certainly looked like he's ready to rock today. Scoped him. No blood, no mucus, no nothing. Had no issues after. Come off the track, couldn't blow a match out. He's just a machine. But that's who we bought, right? And I hope those glimpses of that machine turn into a full-time presence, and that would be wonderful for us. So that was your day in a nutshell. For those of you out there kicking stones, metaphorically, because your horses didn't look the way you wanted, I can tell you right now, I love Memory and Imagination, Pickpocket, Mel Gibbs Swan, every much as I did last year when they were in their prime. Make no mistake, today, in that regard, was their first dress rehearsal. They're going to make mistakes. And again, the track didn't help, but for us, it kind of did help because it was very, very telling of areas we need to work on. Mel, Pickpocket, Memory and Imagination. We all knew that those 3 horses, their feet bothered them. Well, still do. So we need to work on that. And we can. We're going to help Pickpocket, Memory and Imagination out, put their gear back on them, put the hobbles back on them. Mel Gibbs Swan, I suspect we get a couple little doses of TD paste into him, work on his feet, and you're going to get a chance to see the Mel Gibbs Swan I've been telling you about the last little while. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Lots more to talk about today still. We only have 1 horse racing, but I want to talk about the sale that's coming up. I'm going to give you a list of horses that are going to be going in the sale, and we're going to talk also about some staking, maybe some staking changes that I made, very minor ones, but ones that I thought were important. So with that, I'll let you go. Hope you guys had a wonderful morning. I know it wasn't perfect for everybody, but for a lot of people, probably left with a big smile on your face after this morning. Take care.